Good afternoon. And thank you for coming. This is going to be a little different format than I've done in previous years. Today, you may or may not know that it is the feast of St. Augustine, and St. Augustine in the Augustinian community. And since we are an Augustinian community, he is a very important person because we take our name from him. We also take a lot of inspiration from him, and we take a lot of his words and try to make them our own. And we try to use his life and his way of viewing the world and try to understand it better as we come together. I wanted to use this setup or this kind of style of dialogue because he was very much a person of dialogue and believed very much in the process of dialogue. He believed that in order for us to learn and to understand each other, there has to be a dialogue that happens between people. And we speak a great deal here about community and the notion of community and how we use community. And I wanted to kind of focus on that in terms of my conversation with you today, that it was much more of a conversation than it is necessarily me speaking at all of you or kind of giving you my vision of the year to come, but rather what it is that we need to talk about with each other and how it is that we need to talk about each other. We often talk, when we use St. Augustine, we often reflect on him in terms of his most famous work, the Confessions, and we ask, I think, every student here to read that in whole or at least part of it. But a book or a piece of writing that really reflects more his thought about community is his rule to his community, where he speaks very much about how to live one's life with each other and how to kind of gather around together to be what he refers to as one mind and one heart intent upon God. Community was a very important issue to him because he came to Christianity through the very notion of community. He believed very much in the power of his friendships and his relationships, and he believed very much that his knowledge of himself and his knowledge of God really came through other people, that what he learned from other people. But he often speaks of community in a way that many of us may not necessarily understand or totally embrace. But he speaks of it more as what is it the value that each person can contribute, and that each person can contribute something different, and that each person has something different to contribute. And if in conversation with each other we realize that we gain from each other. We gain knowledge about ourselves when we gain knowledge about somebody else. But he also speaks about it as at times, community isn't necessarily equality. It's not that everybody gets what everybody else gets, but rather that you have to understand the needs of people, and that at times people need different things. And so there might be an individual who needs something more at one time than someone else. And that we shouldn't begrudge the individual that, if that is a need that they have. That we shouldn't be people that look on it and say, I should get what everybody else has, or why don't I have what she has, or anything like that. That really doesn't, that's not a sense of community, but rather it's a sense of we all have to be the same. And Augustine didn't believe that everybody was the same or could be the same. We all had different abilities in one way or another. But each ability, each person was valued for what they did bring to the community. He also speaks of community as a way of kind of confronting or challenging each other in one way or another. And probably his most profound direction to his community was the way he asked them to kind of correct each other and to really kind of look at each other and how it is that you correct a person's faults or how you kind of challenge an individual in one way or another. And he was very clear about people needed to go to the person. You needed to individually go to a person and say, this is a problem, or this is what I question, or this is what I want to know. Augustine probably would have been horrified at text messaging or Facebooking or Instagram, because to him, It wasn't the sense of, I have something to say and let me send it out to 5,000 people and tell them how bad you are or what you're doing wrong or what an idiot you might be. But let me tell the world. His sense of it would have been very much, I need to tell you first how I think. And we need to dialogue about how we can correct that. And if that doesn't work, well, then I'll go to Instagram. So there isn't this type, there's very much of a personal dialogue that he's always asking for. And that's really what I would like us as a community, that we speak so much about it here at Villanova, for us to really focus on as we begin this new academic year. How do we treat each other? How do we speak to each other? How do we speak about each other? And how do we challenge each other, inspire each other, and elevate each other? That if we are really going to be a group of people that proclaim to the many students that we welcome to this university that we are a community, we have to behave like a community. We have to be people that really interact with each other and use that power of conversation and dialogue and debate, agreement and disagreement, to really challenge where we go and how we continue to move. That's how we will discover, or that's how we will get to greater understanding. So, with that little homiletic, I'm going to tell you a few things that have been going on here at the university over the summer and kind of get you up to date, and then we'll kind of open it up for questions. And there are people here that know a lot more about some things than I do, and so I may ask them to kind of stand up and say, well, you talk about this one way or the other. Before I begin all of my news alerts, this is a commercial. If you haven't received this book, you will. Shortly, you will receive it. In fact, everybody on campus will receive it. In fact, everybody that has anything to do with Villanova is going to receive it. In fact, it's going to be on sale at the bookstore. But the book is entitled Take and Read Tolle Lege, and that was a very famous quote in Augustine's life, because when he first kind of heard the voice of God in his life, if you know from his confessions, he was sitting in a garden and he heard children singing a song, or he imagined children singing a song, that it was Tolle Lege, Tolle Lege, Tolle Lege, and it was take up and read, and he picked up this book and he opened it up, and it was St. Paul's letter to somebody or another, I forget, and he read about what he must do with his life, and so it became a very famous thing. But the Office of Mission and Ministry has put this book together. And no, those of you who are Boston University or Boston College people, this is not the Boston College book with a blue cover on it. Okay, this is Villanova's book. And it's an incredible kind of collection of things about who we are, about what it means to be an Augustinian community, what it means to be part of an Augustinian educational environment, about some of the people we talk about here, the saints of the order, some of the building names, a little bit of the history of the university. There's a series of prayers for everybody under the sun in it. If you're a teacher, if you're a student, if you're an engineer, if you're a business dean, there's a prayer for a business dean. He'll say it daily, but there's all kinds of things. And there are prayers, some of them are prayers that have been written through the words of St. Augustine, but many of them are prayers that have been written by members of this community. And they cover a wide range of things, in time of distress, in time of need, in time of great wealth, whatever it might be. And then there's a whole series of things about the university and about who we are. So you will get it. It's a great book. I was very pleased with it. And I'm very grateful to Dr. Barbara Wall and her staff in Mission and Ministry for putting it all together. And it took them quite a while to do it, so thank you for that. Okay, a few updates. First of all, personnel updates. I was surprised and sorry to see Dr. Jean Ann Linney retire. It was quite a surprise. It came as quite a surprise to me. And we had quite a lengthy conversation when she decided to do this. And I give her credit in some ways that it was just like, I've had enough, goodbye. So it was like, I know how you feel, but I'm staying. So it's, it was just, she just was ready to go. And so she said, I was going to leave after 5 years, and it's now 3, and it's just time for me to step out of this position. So she did that. And I was very grateful to Dr. Adele Lindenmeyer for stepping into the job. Adele comes, as all of you are well aware, with a great deal of experience, both as a faculty member, but also as an administrator. She has been chair of the history department for a number of years. She has also been the dean of the graduate school here of arts and sciences, and she's done a terrific job. And she kind of, hit the ground running. I don't know if she's here. Is she here? She must be running somewhere. Mental check. Dean Lindenmeyer's not here for my talk. In any case, kidding. I'm kidding. But I'm going to keep it that way for a little while. I've made a decision not to go pursuing a new dean at this time, okay? I'm gonna hold off on it a little while because I want to put some other things into place, or I think we need to put some other things into place before we start searching for a new dean. It's not like Adele doesn't have any experience or that she is not familiar with the college or some of the issues of the college, and I think that for the time being she'll do fine, so I'm not going to initiate any kind of search for her right away, and I've told her this, and she's agreed to at least 2 years. So we'll see where it goes from there. But so in terms of the Dean of Arts and Sciences, that's where it is. The library director, we had to be very honest with you, we had a failed search, and now we're searching again. So we are moving forward with that. The search committee does exist, and there's a search firm that's helping with us. They have narrowed some candidates down, another series of candidates who will begin to come in for interviews, hopefully in the near future. So I'm hoping that we will have somebody as director of the library within this semester, with any luck this semester, or at least by January if the person is available to come in January. Dr. Bob DeVos, I know he's here because he walked over here with me. There he is, he's over there. Thank you, Bob, for saying yes, okay, to doing it temporarily. And thank you to the library staff for hanging in there as all of this, I know it's been quite a turmoil for all of you, but you've all been very professional about it and realized that you have jobs to do and you keep doing them, so thank you for everything that you've done with that. As you know, we are creating a professional college, and what is it called, Kale? Huh? A College of Professional Studies, that's why. See, that's why I've asked other people to be here. And we are in search of a dean of the College of Professional Studies. That search has been a little slower than anything else. The search firm has been contacted. There is a committee that has been established, but we are just in the process of getting out the information and beginning to solicit candidates for that. So we are not at any point of interviewing anybody right now, so they're still searching. As I've said for several years now, I would like to develop a position of provost at the university, and I'm going to begin that process this year. So this semester, there will be a search committee established. I've got faculty that have enthusiastically volunteered. They were breaking my door down to be on the committee, so I guess they're eager about it. I don't know one way or the other, but and then I have some administrators that I have to get involved in it, and I have to find a search firm, but I'm doing all of that. I'm interviewing people right now for that, so I hope to get that process underway. And there's a job description that is being developed, but as you know, in searches, the search firm has a lot to do with how that's worded and after talking to people and all of that kind of thing. So I'm not ready to kind of put that job description out right now. But the position itself, there will be some changes in the administration because of it. There will be some different reporting lines, and there will be some, I'm looking at really kind of restructuring some things in terms of my reports and who comes to me and things like that, and how the office will function. So, but I'm not ready to share that yet, so don't ask. It is my hope that the person will be coming on. This is a big job. It's a big job to take on. I want to find the right person. I am open to it being an internal candidate as much as I am open to it being an external candidate. So I have no preference one way or the other. I'm not going to kind of close it to anybody here. We'll let the people that are doing the searching do their job and bring a set of candidates to me that I will select from. The Board of Trustees is the ultimate decision maker in the hiring of the person. So the person has to be approved by the Board of Trustees according to the bylaws of the university. So it is my hope that by the end of the school year or by the summer sometime that this person will begin their job, and the title Academic Vice President will be transferred to Provost. And there are, well, one I know isn't here, but you know, Jack Johannes did this job for a long time, and I was very grateful for everything that he did in terms of handing it over to me, and Father Cale Ellis has been doing it for the last several years. I kept saying, one more year, Cale, one more year, Cale, and he kept saying, whatever you want, whatever you want, whatever you want. So thank you, Cale, for everything that you've done in terms of bearing with me on this whole thing. So that's where personnel things are right now. I want to give you a little bit of update on the strategic plan. You've heard us talk a lot about, or we've talked a lot about lately, about this whole thing about moving to a new classification. And I hear people talking about it, and I want to, oh, I should ask, does anybody have any questions about personnel things? Yes?
Thanks for the information. At some point, will the provost search become public so that faculty can meet candidates?
Oh, of course, of course. First we have to find candidates, but once we find them, they'll become public, yeah. Yeah, so yeah, they'll be, I mean, it's, not every candidate is going to be made public, but the finalists will be made public. It's too big of a job to, I mean, it's too, they cover too much area to just say, you know, have them come in sneaking in the back door, you know. So no, that will be part of it. But the strategic plan, so as we look through this strategic plan, I want to remind everybody that there are actually five pillars to the strategic plan, and that the strategic plan is not simply let's be reclassified, but there are several things that about the strategic plan that are continuing to move along. One is the acceptance of high caliber students. We continue to do that. As you may or may not know, this freshman class is the highest academically gifted class we've ever accepted here at the university. So we are continuing to move to that, attracting high achieving students to the university. Faculty, qualified faculty who are coming from various locations, PhD people that are high caliber faculty, we are continuing to do that. Putting emphasis into our graduate programs, we're continuing to do that. Looking at how we tell our story. You might remember something called Ignite Change that's still there. It's still going on. We're still doing it. And we're trying to get our story out. And then the fifth thing, of course, was the endowment and building up the endowment and the resources for it. One component of this strategic plan was that we realized that our classification was coming to a point where it could be changed. That Carnegie could change our classification because of where we were and the status that we were right now. And as you've known and seen through many things, we have all the components in place except for that number of PhD students, and we're getting very close to that. So it is our, and we've done a few things to kind of push the lever on that, increasing, you know, some of the people coming into PhD programs, so we're getting there, we're getting very close to it. Carnegie probably will come in or look at us in the year 2016. That's what we're thinking. And when they do, we think it's very likely that they will change our classification. However, they may not. And it's not something that we jump up and down and tell them that they have to do it. But we've put everything into place, so that could change, and as I've said over and over again, we need to prepare ourselves for that. But those other things are still going along, and we're still doing all of those other things as well. So it's not just a focus on one thing. So that's where the reclassification is really, we've put things into place to have that, if that happens, that we are prepared for it and poised to move forward with it. If it doesn't happen, we will continue to move along and make sure that maybe the next time, which wouldn't happen for another 5 years. So it's hope, we're believing that it's going to happen one way or another. In terms of some of the preparations or the preparing for things, I've asked the colleges and all the divisions of the university this summer, they undertook an evaluation of themselves, and there was a series of questions that they were asked to look at over the course of the summer. All of them have done that. They were kind of looking at their strengths, their weaknesses, the opportunities and the threats that were facing all of them. And this went from athletics to academics to dining services to student health services. Everybody was asked to do it. And so the division leaders of all that were asked to put these things together. And they have submitted them all to me, and I have been carefully reading them. And it is, as we move on with the strategic plan, the strategic planning committee is beginning to evaluate them and look at them. It's not necessarily to say we're going to start cutting and dicing and slashing and crashing and burning and throwing things out, but in a very real sense, as we begin, and I've said this often, you cannot continue to add. We cannot continue just to add. We need to sometimes add, and we need to subtract. So we need to look at exactly what is still valid and what may not be valid any longer. What are we doing well and what aren't we doing well? Where are our strengths and where are our weaknesses, and what do we need to change one way or another? I never refer to the university to anybody as a business, but it is an enterprise, and it's a huge enterprise. And it's an enterprise that demands a lot of financial resources, and those financial resources have to be used in a very careful way. And you all are well aware of the cost of going to Villanova University. And we are constantly being questioned about the cost of this place and what we're doing to contain that cost. How do we continue to attract students from all walks of life, from all economic backgrounds, from all different kind of diversity around the country, if we are charging a price that only a certain number of people can pay? We are going to turn into a very elite country club. And so we need to be careful of that. And so when we're looking at this, it's not a matter of just we keep adding things. If we're going to add programs, we have to look at where does the money come from to do that. Certainly development has been doing a wonderful job. Other people, people doing grant work, research work, bringing in grants from various sources have been doing a great job. But tuition only covers so much of it. And we can't keep utilizing tuition as a way to do everything. So we have to look at how do we make this enterprise work and work effectively. And so as we evaluate our programming, we need to look at what it is that we are doing well and what is it that we might be doing differently one way or another. And in that whole area, of course, the level of research that we're doing. And we have been looking at how do we continue to expand and grow that research. It is part and parcel of a university setting, scholarship and research. The faculty are expected to add to their disciplines, to continue to work in their disciplines, to add knowledge to their discipline. It is part of their requirements as being a university faculty member. It costs money. It costs, and if to do it well, and how do we do it, and where do we do it, and the labs we have, the facilities we have, all of those kinds of things to make effective research here. So all of that we have to carefully look at it as we move forward. There's been a lot of talk about doctoral programs, and the theology department, I don't think it's any surprise to anybody, but the theology department has submitted a proposal that has been delivered to my desk with a funding outline or a budget. And so we're evaluating that doctoral program. And if we have the resources to do it and we find the funding to do it, most likely we will initiate a doctoral program in theology. That is not to say we have. So don't go, buying the new frames yet. But, so don't go out buying any nameplates, anybody. But we're working on it. So, it's been in the wind, and it's coming to a point really of serious evaluation one way or the other. That is the only one we're looking at right now. And the reason why is because the program itself, what they have proposed, is a doctoral program that really utilizes Augustine. And as the only Augustinian university in the United States, it makes a lot of sense that we focus on Augustine, and we focus on how he contributed to the world in terms of both theology and philosophy. And right across the hall is philosophy, so it's a good thing that we can kind of do something that is kind of a niche for Villanova. But that program is at the point of being evaluated one way or the other, or the proposal is being one way or the other. Any questions about any of that? Comments, concerns? Okay. As you know, we are in the midst of a capital campaign to try to fund some of these things, and we have done very well with it. We went into the launch in October of last year. You all remember the big tent or whatever, the building on the front lawn. That's not coming back. In some ways, I wish we would have kept it. We could have put classes in it or something. It was pretty sturdy, actually. But the campaign continues to move on. We've done these 9 tours around the country. There were a lot of faculty, and the deans certainly traveled a lot this past year, and there were many faculty members who joined us on that, speaking about their disciplines and what they're doing. It's been very successful, and I think we are at that right now. Mike is what's the figure? $350 million. So we're doing pretty well. You want to tell them what's next?
Sure. So yes, the campaign we launched, we went public in October. As Father mentioned, we went on a series of regional launches around the country. We are now beginning sort of the post-public phase. We launched at $285 million in October. So since then, hopefully you get a sense of the momentum that has continued, having reached 350. We're running well ahead of projections of where we were. We will continue sort of the public display. There won't be necessarily the glitz and the glamour behind the extravaganza that took place in the launch year. But we will be going to a number of secondary cities around the country to continue to broaden the base and engage the larger Villanova constituency. Our regional efforts, the regional offices that have been opened over the last 4 or 5 years in Boston, Chicago, the West Coast, DC, and New York, of course, have really been a glue to this effort. We will be taking it on the road in about a week's time, going over to London and to Dublin to connect to a number of our alumni and friends over there. In some ways, the next campaign, we look at the $600 million as 2 almost distinct $300 million campaigns. The first $300 million was buttressed by early investors, folks who have been friends to this university for many, many years and who have made their gifts very early on in the campaign to build the nutshell that is comprised of 300. The next 300 is going to result as a matter of all the additional work we've been doing these last 6, 7, 8 years, folks that we have tried to really engage and re-accelerate their engagement in the life of this campaign and in the life of the university. So 2 very distinct sort of approaches, and while we're really pleased with the $350 million that we've raised so far, make no mistake, the remaining $250 will be a very significant undertaking. We know we're up for it, and we were particularly appreciative also to the deans and all the faculty that were a part of the campaign. I think it made a tremendous impact on the overall message that we're trying to send.
And Neil Horgan's writing a check if we don't get there, so. Thank you, Neil, we appreciate that. It's the Horgan Center for the Performing Arts. I know you're a big fan of it. Over the course of last year, there was a great deal of dialogue and conversation that went on campus and began with a series of town hall meetings about the question of public safety on campus. People ask me all the time what it is that keeps me up at night, and it is safety that keeps me up at night. I am very concerned about it. I am concerned about the welfare of everyone on campus. Not just the students, but certainly they are a major portion of my sleepless nights, especially when I hear them coming back at night. And I am very concerned when that phone rings at 3 o'clock in the morning, you know, or with things that happen. As you know, a year ago, it was a year ago today that Katara Patel was discovered in her dorm, in the dorm room over in, so it has been a year. Today is the anniversary of her death here on this campus. It is an important topic. It is an important reality. Universities, by their very nature, need to be open environments. We cannot close the place down. We cannot put walls around it. We can't put, as well, much as the technology people have done a wonderful job putting all of these new locks on doors, we can't lock everything. In order for universities to really do what they need to do best, they need to be open places of inquiry, of presence, of people coming and going, of bringing different voices into this community. So the question of how we do public safety is a big issue for us. We have had town hall meetings. Dave Tedeschi and Ken Velosky presented several things. I formed a task force of a number of people. I think there were 15 people on the task force, I'm not sure, but that spent a lot of time looking at the question and evaluating it. We did, as you know, a climate survey of the entire campus, asking them about their comments on public safety, how they feel public safety is. I personally value our public safety officers. I think they do a tremendous job. And I don't think we always appreciate exactly some of the nonsense that they have to put up with sometimes in terms of you know, the way they are treated and the way that people respect them here on campus. I've received all of this information. I have gotten the campus climate from OPIR. I've gotten the task force review. Actually, there was a group of students on campus. They are in a business class, and they actually used a business methodology that they're taught in management systems or something, analytics, that they came and they did a whole thing on it for me. They interviewed schools around the country. It was an incredible project. I hope they all got A's because it was an unbelievable amount of work. And they came and presented it to me through all kinds of bells and whistles of things shooting out at me and all kinds of things. So, and then I finally made the decision to bring in an outside voice. And so this summer, there was a company that came in that actually evaluates public safety on university colleges and campuses, and the public safety department went through an evaluation. And I'm waiting for their report, so no decision on this has been made yet. When a decision is made on it, it will go to the Board of Trustees. They will be the ones that confirm it one way or another. It's a huge, major step for the university. And there are, I know, a variety of opinions on it. But we've talked about it. We've evaluated it. We've looked at it. And we need one now to make a decision one way or the other how we're going to move forward with it. So I just wanted to kind of inform you about, you know, this has been a long process. So we need to make a decision one way or the other. A big issue that is affecting colleges and universities, and if you've been reading the newspapers, et cetera, certainly if you've been reading the Chronicle, is how universities and colleges are now being evaluated on how they deal with sexual assault on campus. And it has become a huge topic. And we have been, universities and colleges have been carefully scrutinized as to how we handle these situations. Most of them, as you may or may not know, are situations that happen between people who know each other. They are not total strangers. Many of them happen within the context of alcohol. And it is a very delicate and serious situation. We have to be careful not to victimize the victim over and over again. We have to be careful how we handle it, but a lot of things are changing, and a lot of things are coming onto college campuses now in terms of how we deal with it, from training of the entire faculty and staff in 4 areas of sexual assault to how we deal with them in a judicial manner, how we do we call an outside counsel. There's all kinds of things. Students now may bring lawyers into judicial affairs, so there's a big change that is taking place in it. And we need to be concerned about it, and we need to take on all of the aspects that we are being, that are being placed on us, both from state as well as federal authorities, as well as the public, and as well as our students and some of the organizations that deal with student rights and things like that. So there will be some changes in that, and it certainly is something that has occupied a lot of time this summer with a lot of different people on campus. I'm happy to answer questions about it. Debbie Fickler's here if you want to know anything more about it. She knows a lot about it as general counsel. So when we open it up for questions, if you have some questions or concerns about what it means for us, she'll be happy to answer that. As you know, there was an alcohol report, use of alcohol on campus, that was done by the Student Life Division through Health Promotions and the Dean of Students' office. That report was completed. I do have some concerns about it in terms of how it will be implemented on campus. Student Life has done a lot, I think, to implement it in terms of student life programs. But I really believe it goes beyond student life. It's an issue that all of us need to address one way or another. I think it's an issue that the academic culture has to address. When we have classes, when we don't have classes, what we're making, how we're asking students to respond to our academic mission. So it's a bigger question than simply the Student Life Office coming up with new policies on alcohol use on campus. It is really an issue that affects every aspect of this campus, and I have asked Father Stack and his staff to kind of continue to work with the various levels of the university to see how we implement what we discovered in that report, one way or the other. There is a lot of changes on the wind in athletics. The world of collegiate athletics is changing drastically, and it will have an effect on how we do sports. And a lot of it is up in the air right now. There's a lot of I refer to it, all the things I've had to read about it, the huffing and puffing of the Big Five, what they want to do and what they want to spend and what they want to be able to control. That is affecting every other conference in the country as well. As you might know, there is a legal battle that is going on called the O'Banion case, where a judge has made a ruling that student athletes, that only certain student athletes, men's basketball and men's football FBS series, Division I men's basketball will be paid a certain amount of money every semester that will be placed into trust, which they will receive at the end of it. This is above and beyond the scholarship and the room and board and everything else that is part of their athletic scholarship. That ruling is being, appealed. And many people believe that there will be some changes in that, or there will be some adjustments to that, but it will affect it. And I've talked to Vince about it, and I can, I can hear it right now that it's, you know, it's going to get much more into men's basketball and football, you know, because Title IX is going to start playing into it, and there's going to be a whole lot of other issues that flow from it. But like it or not, collegiate athletics is changing, and is changing to be much, much more, in my opinion, a business. So it is really becoming a very important topic of conversation on campuses. We will be able to deal with it. I have no doubt about it. We will be able to manage it one way or the other, but it is changing. And if you have any questions about that, when I finish all of this, Vince Nicastro will be happy to answer them. Won't you, Vince? Of course. I have to tell you, I've learned a hell of a lot, though, about sports. I know the difference between a soccer ball and a basketball now. I've established over the course of the summer a new committee. Well, it's not a new committee, it's kind of an old committee that's coming back again. But over the course of this year, there have been several projects / requests that have come to my desk and are in need of careful consideration and space and management. And as we move forward with our strategic plan, as we move forward with our expansion of who we are and what we are, we need to look at how we use space and how our space is managed. And I think it's more a question of managing the space than anything else. But there's a lot of new initiatives coming, and a lot of these new initiatives are saying we need space to do this in. And so, you know, it's, there was a committee many, many years ago that I discovered was called the Space Committee or something like that. They're coming back, you know. Houston, we have a problem, and they're coming back. So I've asked each of the areas to give me the name of a person, and these people will have the responsibility of not only evaluating space requests, but they will also be responsible for looking at managing the space at the university. And that is a monumental task, because every university building, every building on this campus, in one way or another, belongs to the university. Even though you might think it's yours, it isn't. It belongs to the university, and we need to look at how we manage the space. And there's some very serious areas that need some attention. I'm sure all of the science faculty is sitting there nodding their heads. Mendel is in need of some serious attention. And there are several other buildings that are in that category as well. As I've often said, Tollentine is beyond repair. You know, we have to kind of look at these things and how they're managed. So this committee has been formed, and many of the members are here. Ironically, I didn't even ask them, but they're here. And the committee is being headed by Bob Morrow in facilities, and Rose O'Driscoll is the nursing person. Melinda German is the business person. Colleen Hines. Colleen, are you here? That's two people from arts that aren't here. She's the arts person. I have Bob DeVos is on the committee. Bob does everything here. I had the list here somewhere. A little break. Who else? Bob. Oh, okay. Nat Natara in engineering is the engineering person. Mick Keelan is the athletic person, and Tom DeMarco is the student life person. So this body of people will meet on a regular basis and look at issues in dealing space requests, management, things like that. They will make recommendations to me and my cabinet, and we will then follow along with their recommendations on what things need to be done. Okay? So just that you know that if you have a space need, or you have a management need, or you have a building problem, don't call me, call Bob. and his committee. And Rose is always available. At 6:10. I'm only kidding. Okay. Now, talking about buildings, there's some changes that are taking place on campus if you haven't seen them. There is a brand new spanking TV studio production room over in Gary Hall. It is beautiful. If you haven't seen it yet, you should go over and see it. It came through the combination of gifts as well as entrepreneurial money from the College of Arts and Sciences. It is a beautiful space and well needed, and it's over at the old lecture hall of the law school. The old law school has been totally transformed. It's really amazing what they did in the summer. And in Falvey, in Old Falvey, there's a cave. I have no idea what the cave is, but we've built a cave in Falvey. And the cave, maybe the computer people can tell me more about it, but it's something about you walk in and you're suddenly transported to another place in the world, or in time, or, it's kind of like a time machine, isn't it? Something like that. Anyway, it's opening in October. You're all invited, and we will take you all on a carpet ride to the Vatican, one way or the other, right? Is that how it works? Okay. Anyway, I don't know what it is, but it's great. It's a great thing. And the foyer of Bartley Hall has been kind of transformed. And I'm going to embarrass him, but it actually came out through a gift, a rather large gift, from one of the faculty members of VSB, Bob Neidick, who donated money to transform the lobby of VSB, and that's working right now. And it is like glass everywhere. It's very glitzy, right? Everyone will see what Melinda German really does. And finally, we have some updates on the soccer field. There's a new soccer complex over on the West Campus. If you haven't seen it, you really should come over and see it. It's really quite a transformation. It was great living over there all summer long. Beep, beep. Yeah, every morning at 6 o'clock, and they told me it started at 7, but they actually showed up at 6. But they were under a timeline, but it's wonderful. It's a great transformation. It's artificial turf now, so the field will be able to be used by a lot more people than just soccer. But it is not a dog walking park. So some of the neighbors think it is, but it's not. And last but not least, the Lancaster Avenue Development Project, which is well underway. And has gone through a lot of different. Everybody keeps saying to me, when are you going to start building? You got the approval. We only got one small approval. We got approval or they changed the zoning of the land. Now it's in a condition, called the conditional use phase. And so it's how the design is being accepted by the township, how the negotiation going on back and forth between the township. There are a group of dedicated Villanovan staff members, Chris Kowalski, Bob Morrow, Steve Hillebrand, who weekly face the township on these issues and how we can continue to work with the township to bring about this project. So it's moving forward, slowly but surely it's moving forward. So I think we're all feeling good about it, aren't we, Bob? Where'd Chris go? Oh, there you are. Are we feeling good, Chris? Yeah, thumbs up. So it's moving along. Don't expect us to be breaking ground anytime soon, okay? But it's coming along, okay? I told them the other day they were meeting with me. I'll end on this. They were meeting with me on this Performing Arts Center, and it's something I'm very interested in. And they were showing me designs and what it was going to be. And then I asked them when it would actually be finished, and they told me when they estimated it would be finished. And I said, then we have to change the lighting in the lobby, because I want spotlights shooting down onto my tomb. Because I'm going to be right smack in the middle of the lobby. All right, that's the update. Questions, comments, anything you'd like to ask? Anything? Anybody? Yes, Terry.
I'm just curious, can you clarify for me what's happening with the custodial staff? There seems to be so many
Sure.
disparate.
It kind of goes to the whole issue that I was talking about. You know, the university is an enterprise, so we're always looking at how is it, you know, where do we look at kind of saving dollars, or how do we continue to look at examining what is the most efficient way of doing things? A lot of colleges and universities take a lot of their kind of services and outsource them. You know, they have companies that come in and do things. And so we did that with the bookstore. It's worked well for the bookstore. You know, the bookstore has worked well. Whether it would work for custodial services, I'm not sure, but I think we should look at it. You know, so we've kind of asked for RFPs on that, and possibly facilities. You know, we did it last year with waste disposal. We put out nobody seemed to care about that, but we put out these RFPs for waste disposal, and we had these companies come in, and we decided that Villanova does it better. And so we left it the way it was. And so I just think that as responsible stewards of our environment, we have to kind of look at these things. And it doesn't necessarily mean that anything's going to change, but we have to look at what are and as in nobody will not be a Villanova employee. You know, they'll be an employee, but they won't lose their benefits, they won't lose their pay, they won't lose their jobs. We've been very strict or very clear about that in these RFPs, that this isn't like come in and wipe the place clean at all. You've got to work within our environment. I think that that process has gone through. I'm waiting for some kind of feedback on it all, and then I'll make the decision how I would bet. But it's really just being good stewards of what we have and taking a look at, is this a good thing or not? So, but no decision has been made. Oh, you're such a cooperative group when you're all together. Yes. It is. Mike and his staff have done an incredible job.
And I wondered if you might give us any sort of sense, and maybe this isn't allowed, but of how that's parceled out. Like, I know many gifts are dedicated. Is there a way to?
So basically, you know, the campaign is comprehensive in nature. It is meant to support the 4 other pillars of the campaign. We feel like it will help underpin or actualize the vision of the strategic plan. But then how does that translate in reality? Well, of the $600 million, there are a few different buckets that gifts that are being earmarked toward. The largest piece is $250 million for endowment. 125 for financial aid endowment, 125 million for financial aid endowment, and another 125 million for faculty and programmatic endowment. So of that total, we have already infused, in addition to the endowment return on investment that has been very robust over the last couple of years, a full $60 million in cash has been infused as a result of this campaign, with another $70 or $80 million, I believe, already pledged that will come over time, over the next 4 or 5 years, and be immediately put into the endowment itself. So the endowment, and Neil and Ken's team have these figures, and I presume I can go ahead and say. Well, okay. But let me just finish. He'll talk about the endowment growth in a minute, but so that's 250 of the 600 million. Another 125 million is for, 150 million is for capital projects. A new pavilion, the Performing Arts Center, the previously mentioned Performing Arts Center, which is now going up in cost because it's going to also serve as a tomb. Falvey Library, and Tullentine Hall. Another $125 million in immediate investments that are not, they're non-endowed immediate investments. And then the fourth piece, $75 million in unrestricted dollars, which is a mechanism for us to grow our alumni participation rate, which a sub-goal of the campaign is to grow our participation rate, undergraduate alumni, to in excess of 30%, of which we are now currently at 25% and have grown about 1.5 percentage each year over the last 5 years. So hopefully that gives you a firmer sense of each of the components. And now I'll turn it over to Neil.
You have to understand that Neil spends a lot of time dealing with the endowment. So this is a major feat for the university. And there's no better person to tell you what it is than Mr. Dynamic himself. Right. Go.
Accountants are known for their dynamic personalities, absolutely. Much more than performers, performing arts center types, but
give
no,
him a mic. See what happens? You give him a mic.
But I'm actually not even used to talking into a microphone. But I am happy to report that as of the end of our fiscal year, May 31st, 2014, our endowment reached an all-time high, which I think is also a very significant psychological milestone for the university. We reached $501 million. It was the first time. Which was great news and very gratifying for the finance folks, but certainly has a lot of benefit for all of the areas of the university. Just a few words of how the endowment's grown over time. We ended the previous year at $426 million, so it was quite a leap from 426 to 501. Before the financial crisis in 2008, our previous all-time high was $355 million. After all of the financial markets crashed in 2008 and 2009, we hit a low of $235 million, which for people like myself causes a lot of sleepless nights and worry. But from that low, we're now over $500 million, and that's certainly due to two things. One, certainly the tremendous success of fundraising in the past few years, but then also the strength of the financial markets over the last few years. It's important to remember that while the endowment's grown to that level, we basically spend 5% of the market value of the endowment every year to support endowed faculty chairs, financial aid, and other things around the university. So we're really excited about the positive momentum we've had in the last couple of years, and hopefully only upwards from here. So thanks, Father.
That's a huge milestone for the university. Now we only need $500 million more, and we'll be right up there with our competitors, who are all at $1 billion plus. Yes.
In the light of all those capital campaigns and the expenditures and so forth, are there any of those funds earmarked for sustainability efforts, like maybe a solar farm or things that we might be able to do to help not only the environment but also reduce some of our costs?
Certainly something you can look at. Yeah, I'm open to it. I'm open to a lot of things. It doesn't mean that's going to happen, but I'm open to them. No, it's. I think we're constantly looking at, the buildings themselves and what we're building on campus. And our facilities people have taken great care about energy and cost, and the President's Sustainability Committee does a lot of work on trying to rectify some of that. So, we are we've made a commitment that our buildings now will be green, and all of those things will come into play. And so there's a much more consciousness on the part of sustainability. And, as the township reminds us every week, we have the world-leading person on storm management on our campus, and why don't we listen to him? Which we do. Anything else? Yes, Seth.
Father, has there been any update about any plans to work on the SEPTA train station or any?
It's totally in the hands of SEPTA. It's really SEPTA's project. It's not ours. It's their project. And you think we move slowly on things? That project started when I became president, and I'm in my 9th year. So gives you an idea. But it's still moving. They're still doing it, but they've been. But it really is their project, so we have very little to do with it. He just said they might be digging the new tunnel at Mendel a year from now, within the next year. Okay? We'll put spotlights on it for you. Anything else? Oh, sorry.
Will the tunnel connect to the cave in the library?
I don't know. You might be able to go to the tunnel through the cave, or maybe if you're in the cave, you can go in the tunnel. I'm not sure, but he's gonna kill me. Is he here? Oh, he's got a. This is the caveman himself. You want to tell him about the cave?
Oh, Father, you've done such a wonderful
Okay. Good question, though. Anything else? Well, yes, no? Okay. Thank you all for being here, and thank you all for everything that you do. And before you all go running out of here, I'd like to ask God to be with us, and I'd like to ask all of you to stand, and as we celebrate the beginning of this year. Almighty God, as we gather this day in unity of mind and heart, under the guidance of St. Augustine, we, the faculty, staff, and students of Villanova University, ask your blessing upon us. Let us pray. Gracious God, send your Spirit upon us as we begin another academic year. May it be filled with new life as we face the many challenges placed upon us as a university community. Help us to seek truth, foster unity, and embrace love in all that we do. Guided by the inspiration of St. Augustine, a lifelong student and teacher, let us strive to ignite wisdom in one another, and through our dialogue, illuminate true understanding. Help us to cultivate a positive and safe environment. Help us to be open to opposing thoughts and opinions. Help us to celebrate the diversity of our community. Help us to nourish and nurture our personal and spiritual development. And let us bow our heads and pray for God's blessing. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. And I ask God to bless each and every one of you, and I give thanks for all that you do for Villanova. Amen.